Hello, everyone, and good evening. As you can hear, I'm not in the best of health in terms of I seem to have lost my voice over the last few weeks, or even the last few days, and it kind of got better, and then it's sort of gone back to being a little bit like this. But I think it should last up for our conversation, and hopefully you can hear me okay, and you can understand me enough to be able to get across what we're doing. Because I've got a fantastic conversation with Karen coming up about SuperKind.org. So he's going to take us through what that's all about. He's the co-founder and what his sort of message and how he's trying to support children in that particular organization. So please do make sure you have subscribed and also hit that notification bell. As I said, just before Christmas, there may be one or two sort of unexpected lives that we're going to do just to kind of keep that sort of festive season idea. It'd be great to sort of better hang out and chat in that particular kind of way. If you are watching live and you want to ask any questions or you want to comment or anything, please do put that in the chat because we can bring that up on screen. And if you've got any questions, we can ask those in real time as well. So yeah, feel free to do that whenever you're ready to do it, and then I can always filter them into the conversation when it seems like a really appropriate time. So, if you have not subscribed to the audio side of the podcast, please do. This is the place where you can get all your downloads straight to the device that you're using. educationonfire.com/listen takes you to this page, and then you can use that to go straight through and follow, like I said, on your favourite platform. And that way, when you wake up on a Monday morning, certainly here in the UK, the latest episode should be there waiting for you. And I really enjoyed this week's episode with Graham Jordan. We were talking about CVs, and I had sort of preconceived ideas of what that was from sort of my expertise and what I've done in my professional life. But he had some really interesting ideas about what it is really coming from a marketing point of view rather than a sales page kind of idea, which I thought was actually brilliant and happened to be really sort of great timing because my daughter's been applying for part-time jobs, and we were sort of able to sort of bring my conversation with him into what we were doing, which was a fascinating way of doing that. And of course, if you do go to the website, you can click through and there's details of him and how you can get in touch and everything related to that particular episode. So without further ado, let's bring Karen on and we can talk and find out exactly what he's going to be challenging us and giving us all that information for SuperKind. So Karen, thank you so much for being here.
Hi, Mark. Thanks for having me.
So take us in as co-founder. Where did the idea come from? What was sort of that sort of seed of inspiration?
Yeah, so SuperKind is a social action and charity platform for young children in schools. And the kind of backstory to how it came about really was from kind of watching my wife and I watching our own children and the benefits that they were getting from social action. So it kind of all started when my 5-year-old daughter, she was 5 at the time, decided to write a letter to the Prime Minister at the time, who was Theresa May. Seems like a long time ago. And she made a really lovely little booklet about global warming, and she wrote a letter to go with it. She sent it off to the Prime Minister, and she got a reply back from kind of someone in the civil service, but we told her it was the Prime Minister, and it really kind of lit a fire in her. And she, completely off her own volition, became really interested in social action. She went on to do fundraisers and to write more letters and help organise food drives, and did a presentation at school about gender equality, all sorts. And then that inspired her own younger siblings. And my son's done fundraisers for WWF and Great Ormond Street and taking part in, raising money for Ukraine and stuff like that. And even my kind of little 5-year-old now gets involved as well. And it's been amazing to see the benefits that it had to them in terms of empathy is a big one, leadership skills, team working skills, and a huge one is a sense of agency, like feeling like, we can actually have an impact over some of these kind of big issues. So that was amazing to see. And then on the other hand, I felt a bit frustrated seeing the situation in schools, which was not really so much a social action education as often just, quite a transactional approach to charity and good causes, putting £1 in a bucket to raise money for something that the kids might not even know what it was or be able to remember it or not know where the money's going. And I just really felt that it's such a huge opportunity. People talk about a double benefit of social action. There's the benefit for the causes and the communities that are supported, but then there's the benefit for the people taking part in it. And I really felt that this should be a bigger part of the education system. So together with my wife and also my sister-in-law, we started working on building a platform for schools to help them make social action part of their offering in as easy way as possible and as meaningful way as possible. And it's led us to incorporate a whole range of resources and things that we'd never even thought about. But now I think what we've produced, hopefully, as schools tell us, is sort of a one-stop shop for social action.
Amazing. And how did that come about in terms of your sort of professional life? Were you involved in education before? Were you involved in the tech before? What's your sort of
Yeah,
background?
it's a good question. I'm on my, I think, seventh career, something like that. I've built a business before, but that was in graduate recruitment. So it was a little bit different, but it was a web platform. So a lot of the skills from that came in use here. I have done some teaching before in a foreign country quite a long time ago. Feels like a lifetime ago. So it wasn't something that was directly related to my career, but as I say, was something that I have the skills to kind of build a platform and scale it. And just something that as a parent, I became really interested in. And for a long time, my wife and I had that urge to do something kind of, fulfilling and giving back. SuperKind is a not-for-profit. And when we sort of realized the scale of the opportunity to bring children into social action, that felt like a perfect fit for us.
And it really sort of makes sense from what I hear when I'm chatting to people is that, like I say, when there's agency, when children feel like there's something which is relevant to me, like I say, whether it's a passion, whether it's something in their local community, or like I said, even, sending a letter to the Prime Minister, you sort of feel like you're involved and you can make a difference. I can see how that really sort of makes a change. And what I love is the fact that we often talk about these things, but actually from your point of view, in terms of, like I say, creating a non-profit to be able to make this a reality and for other people to get involved, and also for the children's standpoint as well, yes, we can talk about these things, we'd like it to be different, but actually understanding how you can go about and make that change is probably the most powerful thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is the kind of key to it all, making sure that children are making the choices, making the decisions, doing the learning as much on their own as possible, not having to ask an adult for help or guidance every step of the way. And that just makes it so much more enriching for them. And really, this is the skills that they're learning. We know from research, it stays with them for life, both in terms of sort of hard skills, but also the values that they're picking up in terms of tolerance and open-mindedness. And I mean, for example, we know from research that if children engage in meaningful charitable action before the age of 10, then they're twice as likely as adults to be habitually philanthropic. So, if getting children involved in this way is really valuable long term, both for the children and for kind of a society as a whole, to have these kind of people coming out of our education system.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes a lot of sense. And if you're watching live and you've got a question or you're involved in Superkind in some way, do let us know where you're watching, how you're involved, or like I say, if you've got a comment you'd like to do, put it in the chat, and we're going to bring it up and have a conversation about it as well. But let's just watch a little video here so we can get an idea of sort of that sort of background and from sort of a child's eye view, as it were.
The world we live in is an inspiring place. We are surrounded by beautiful nature and wildlife, and we've built cities, made medicines, and even travelled into space. But there are lots of problems still to be solved. From hunger and poverty to climate change and plastic pollution, there are serious issues affecting our planet, our animals, and our people. Everywhere you look, amazing people are taking action to make a difference. No one is too young, and no act is too small. Children everywhere, just like you, are changing the world for the better.
Like Jackal Jackson, he was only 5 years old when he was inspired to help homeless people.
Can you imagine if that was your classmate, cousin, mom, or dad? What if it was you?
He started making bags full of toiletries and essential items to give to people in shelters and on the streets. His bags have reached over 60,000 people across the world.
Or Amy and Elamik, they were shocked when they saw pictures of turtles with straws in their noses and fish trapped inside plastic bags.
This is everybody's issue, and so it's up to all of us to help fix it.
They set up their own charity called Kids Against Plastic and inspired a movement of plastic collecting volunteers.
Together they have collected hundreds of thousands of pieces of plastic litter and persuaded countless organisations to ban single-use plastic. They have delivered speeches all over the world.
And in 2021, Amy and Ella won the Pride of Britain Green Champion Award for their amazing work.
Like those change makers, every one of us can take action to make a difference in the world. We can start small or we can go big. Every action helps. Sometimes all we need is to know how and to be given the tools to make change happen. That's what SuperKind's for. SuperKind is here to help teach you about the big issues facing our world right now, to inspire you with stories of children who have already made a difference, and to help you make change happen to the things you care about.
SuperKind, together we can change the world.
Wow, that's really amazing, and it really comes across, like you said, it's not just about putting the pound in the bucket and doing something at school. That's, doing it 100%. And like I say, the opportunities for the people that have been involved are just incredible.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. It's hopefully it's just beneficial. It's beneficial for everyone. Funnily enough, there's actually a recent research report that talked about a third benefit, which was to teachers teaching social action as well. They kind of found that teachers who are getting to teach social action felt more creative and energized and passionate about their work and involved in their school and community. So it's kind of a win-win-win.
Yeah. And tell us a little bit about the awards and some of the things that you've been involved in, and sort of
Yeah.
how does an organisation like this grow in terms of, because obviously the more people that you reach, the more people you affect, then obviously the bigger the change.
Yeah, that's a good question. I can talk about awards from two sides. There's awards that we've won, which we were really proud of to recently get to win a third sector award for Digital Innovation of the Year. Which is great because they're recognizing the kind of importance of engaging children in charity work and charity fundraising. So we were kind of really honored for that. But we also have our own award for schools, which is called the Social Impact Schools Award. And we've launched that because we want to recognize schools who are doing a great job at social action, engaging their kids in social action, and also incentivize schools who maybe aren't doing maybe such a good job but want to find more time to do it, or have more impact, and give them the sort of independent recognition for doing that. So we've got hundreds of schools taking part in that this year, which is really exciting because it's something that, really we just want to see social action become more and more mainstream, become more and more central to the curriculum. So we feel that having something like the award is a great way to achieve that.
And I think as well, it's that sense of, from a grown-up's point of view and from a parental point of view, we know there are issues in the world that need big sweeping ideas and people with passion that can make that difference. And I think feeling like that's already happening and it's not something that we're putting off is going to be really powerful for everybody.
I think that's true, but also, I think the kids know it as well. They know these big issues are happening. They hear it on the radio or the news or people talking about it in the playground. So it's remiss of us to, I guess, not engage with children on that level, because they hear about this stuff and it's overwhelming and it's anxiety provoking. So we need to educate children in an age appropriate way about the big problems that are going on in the world. And then, the key thing for us is that we always have this sense of optimism and this sense of agency. So whenever we educate a child about something, we finish with, well, here's the action you can take, here's the impact you can have, because that can then take that sort of anxiety and sense of pessimism and turn it into empowerment and optimism. And that's such an important thing, I think, for more than ever for the current generation of younger children.
So if people want to get involved and they sort of they go to superkind.org, what do they see? What do they then do? How do they sort of take that next step?
Yeah, it's a good question. So we are primarily a schools resource, but not solely a schools resource. So everything is built to be used by children, firstly. So all our language is for children, all the content is age appropriate for children and tailored at children. So the idea is that a teacher can come on, choose what the class want to learn about, or what actions they want to take, or to find charities. And teachers will be able to dive in, find the right pages, and point their children in the right direction. But then we also have the ability for anyone to do that at home as well. And we have lots of parents who engage their children in that way. Or, we're working with children up to 13, and we have lots of 10, 11, 12, 13-year-olds who are just coming off on the website of their own volition. So we've got different gateways for each of those different audiences, kind of schools and parents and students, and there's just so much for them to dive into. So we say that the website is built around the ideas of educating, inspiring, and empowering. So the education side is we have resources on all the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and also big issues of the day that children might be hearing about in the news. And that involves really engaging age-appropriate content and videos and photos. And it's all built around this idea of what's the issue, what are the solutions, and what action can children take. Then we have a range of charities. So we've partnered with a lot of charities, which is a sort of curated list of charities who we think are doing a really good job. And again, are age appropriate, and children can support in different ways, because there's, I think, 400,000 charities or something like that in the UK. It's completely overwhelming for anyone, let alone a child, to think, okay, yeah, I care about, let's just say hunger is an issue that a child relates to. I'd really want to support a charity in this space. Then they've got to go off and find a hunger charity, like let loose on the internet. So we've curated a list, for each Sustainable Development Goals of, we've got some charities that we think do a fantastic job on hunger. So, for example, Fair Share or Trust, there are a couple of them. And those charities have pages and ways that children can support them. And then we have our Inspire section, which is basically case studies of other young change makers. So we've got over 50 young change makers who have taken action in all sorts of ways and just done the most incredible things, from raised hundreds of thousands of pounds to invented things to one girl wrote a letter to Barack Obama that led to him unlocking $100 million of federal aid for the town of Flint in Michigan. It's just amazing, some of the things that children have achieved. And it's so inspiring, for adults, but also for children, to watch these kind of videos and learn about these children and realize, people my age can have an impact. I don't have to wait until I'm older. And then our empowerment section is around our sort of toolkits, the different types of action you can take, and leading children through that. So whether it's, raising awareness by doing an assembly at your school, or where maybe it's organizing a petition or starting a club or fundraising, so many different options of action they can take. So we've really just got resources for teachers and children in all of this stuff. As I said, it's kind of a one-stop shop for social action. And then on top of it all, we have a fundraising platform for young people. So they can go on and raise money for over 30,000 different charities and good causes. So if fundraising is the social action that they decide that they want to take, and we're really clear that there's a lot of social action that requires no money, no resources, which is really important. But if that is what they want to do, then we've got the resources for them to be able to do that, again, in a safe, age-appropriate way. And we're actually the only children's fundraising platform in the entire world, the only one that children under 13 can use, which means we're the only ones that could be legally used in schools. So lots of schools use us for their kind of sponsored, whatever it is, or Christmas jumper collections or bake sales. So pretty long-winded answer, but there's a lot on there.
Yeah, absolutely. And we should touch on where people can use it from, because there was obviously, like you say, you mentioned about Michigan. We've talked about people here in the UK. So what sort of reach does the platform have, and are there any restrictions across different sort of?
No, not at all. There's no restrictions. All the charities that we profile and the charities that people can fundraise for are UK based. But obviously the Sustainable Development Goals are very much international, and the children that we profile are from all over the world, all different backgrounds, different ages. So, I know we have lots of people who use us in different countries. Just due to resources, we're only working actively with UK schools at the moment. But anyone can come onto the site, as a school, as a teacher, as a parent, as a kid, and make use of our free resources.
Yeah, amazing. And how do you see it developing going forward? Do you expand the platform? Is it just like, say, doing things like this so that more people can talk about it, get to know about it, and expand it that way? What's the sort of
Yeah,
plan?
yeah. Well, listen, we're in a few hundred schools at the moment, and we want to be in every school because we just, social action is so important, and we just want to see it be so kind of front and center of schools' offerings. So that's goal number one, to make sure that we're supporting every school and every teacher who wants to be supported to get involved with social action. And then, really, as I say, it's about educating, inspiring, and empowering children towards making a difference by taking social action. So any way we can reach children and deliver on those goals, we kind of want to go into. So whether that's podcasts, or whether that's books, or whether that's YouTube videos, we want to be there kind of empowering children in any way that works for them.
And I think that's it, isn't it? It's those touch points, and also, like I say, being relevant to the people that you're trying to talk to. And I think also what's really fascinating, and I think really unique in lots of these ways, is like I say, it's that sort of child entry point of kind of, it's for the children, it's giving them the opportunity to do it, rather than we're speaking to the teachers who are then going to take it into the school. And I think
Yeah.
that's quite a different approach in lots of ways.
Yeah, I think so, and that's where the benefits come. That empowerment and that agency. And children are so different, and they care about different things, and there's different things they want to support, and there's different ways in which they want to support things. And some children are inventors, and some kids are artists, and some kids are creative, and some kids are great at organizing events, but some just wouldn't want to be out in public like that. So if we can appeal to let the children lead the way, and do something that engages them and motivates them, it's much more powerful. So that's really what we should be aiming for, and then they will accrue the kind of skills and values that come with really enjoying something. And I kind of talk to adults all the time, and who say, oh, I did X and Y when I was 11, and I really enjoyed it, and it really stuck with me. Those kind of experiences are really powerful.
And I think also you sort of touched on there about sort of different skill sets and different people's skill sets. And that's what you realize when you're suddenly doing it as a community, is the fact that it might be that the thing that you're raising money for, or what it is that you're passionate about, looks like one particular thing. But in order to make it work, you need the person who's organized, you need the creativity, you need someone who's going to be out there literally shouting it from the rooftops to make sure that people know. And I think then you suddenly realize that no matter what your personality or what your strengths are, you can make a difference in your own way, rather than feeling like it has to look a certain way, or this is how you go about doing this sort of thing.
Definitely. And I think that's also so important for particular groups of children, maybe who are more marginalized academically, or struggling at school, or it's just giving them this kind of extra, it's another string to their bow. It's not just the kind of the maths and the English. It's a different way to engage in things and kind of show your ability, and often it sets people up for a whole life career. So it's great to be able to give that kind of variety to children, and as you say, kind of so that they can meet it on their own terms and bring their own skills to it.
And do you find as well, if it's coming from a sort of a child-centered idea, how much steering or support do you then see maybe from the teachers? Are they very sort of open-minded and go on the journey together, or are they a little bit more kind of need that sort of structure in order to sort of get it through the school gates, as it were?
Yeah, well, I think the key is, I think, that some structure is needed, some scaffolding, and that's what we're trying to provide to teachers, so that they can then give children the flexibility within that. And that will look really different, obviously, for year 2 to what it might look like for year 8. And typically, so when you're dealing with year 2, it's got to be a bit more teacher led, should we say? And the whole class are likely to be doing an activity together, and it might be more that the class chooses as a group what they're going to do, what cause they care about, what charity they want to support, or maybe in 3 or 4 groups. But then when you get to kind of year 8, the children might be choosing for themselves and kind of making all the decisions for themselves. So there's definitely a kind of variation according to age, but I would say that having the sort of framework in place. So, like, one of the things that we have, for example, is a SuperKind Change Makers Club program that some schools deliver. It's a sort of 5-hour kind of club that leads children through the journey from learning about causes, choosing something they care about, finding a charity support, being inspired by other kids who have taken the same kind of actions to support similar charities in a similar space, and then choosing an action themselves and taking it and following that through to delivery. And some schools deliver that as an after-school club. Some schools deliver that within a PSHE, sort of a half-term sort of module. And something like that, I think, provides a good framework within which children can then make their own choices, and teachers can give children that kind of scaffold to make their own choices within a clear framework.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. And just sort of one final shout out: if you're watching live and you do you want to ask any questions or make a comment, please do that now. We'll sort of tie that in towards the end. I know many of you just like to watch and just see what's going on, which is absolutely fine. But we do have that ability to kind of bring that sort of live interaction as we go through. And in terms of sort of how this sort of looks within your life, is it sort of full time in terms of what you're doing? What sort of team have you got in order to make it work?
Yeah, it started off as a kind of part-time thing, and it very much has swollen to become more than full-time, which on the positive side is a sign of the fact that it's doing well and that there's a great market for it. But it's definitely hard to keep up with that and having 4 kids. So yeah, no, it's pretty full on. But I have very good colleagues, and we have lots of amazing kind of more freelance people who help us out on all sorts of different areas. So it's really amazing what I think you can create and deliver and scale with passionate people who engaging in something that they really care about.
So if there was sort of one takeaway you'd like people watching to go and do, what would that be? Visit the website, go out and chat to someone about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be, number one, to understand the incredible benefits that come with social action. I mean, it really, there are so many, and there's so much research behind it, and even things like employability and attendance and behavior. One report even suggested it could raise grades by up to 1.5 points, people who engage in social action. Well-being there was one report that said that children engaging in social action were 20% more satisfied with their lives. There's just so many benefits. So I guess stage one is buying into the idea that social action is something that your children or the children who you're teaching or at your school should be engaging in. Then stage two is definitely going to superkind.org and making use of our resources so that you can, because it can feel, especially teachers and parents, so busy, no space to add anything new. But it's actually really easy to integrate, and it's really enjoyable. And particularly in the case of schools, a lot of schools are doing a lot of this stuff anyway in terms of time. And it's often just a case of making it a bit more joint up, having a bit more of a strategy behind it, and using the right resources to make it more meaningful. So hopefully anyone coming to our site would pretty easily gain the ability to kind of implement that. We would encourage schools to take part in our award, because that provides a really nice structure to kind of go through and extra resources that make things even more easy. And we've just got great feedback from the schools that are already taking part in it. So I think those would be the steps. But really, I just encourage everyone to try and engage their children in social action, because the benefits are so manifold.
And it's free to use. So in terms of that sort of sustainability, how does it work on a practical sense? And is there anything people can do sort of who are watching maybe that could help in that sort of sense?
That's a very, very, very good question. So it's free to use. We are applying for some grants at the moment, which hopefully will give us a bit of further runway. Long term, our fundraising platform, when someone although it's free to use and free for charities and the schools and the kids, when someone makes a donation, we ask them, just like Just Giving do, if they would consider an optional tip to SuperKind, which some people don't want to give anything, and that's fine. And other people are very, very generous. And that's, long term, that's the model that we want to, hopefully the fundraising platform will support the rest of the business. So I guess the main way that schools can support us, or people can support us, is by encouraging their children to use us when they're doing any fundraising activity.
Absolutely. Well, fantastic. I think that's really, really important. And so just for everyone watching and everyone who's inspired by this, just thank you so much for what you're doing. And like I said, it's one thing to talk about these things. It's another thing to actually put something into the world that's going to make a difference and give an option for children and people to kind of get it on board and make that difference themselves. So yeah, thanks so much for chatting. And yeah, superkind.org is where you need to be going. And I really appreciate your time today.
Thanks, it's such a pleasure. Thank you for having me on. And I mean, it's a pleasure doing it. So, it's an honor to be able to work with these kind of schools and children and see the kind of stuff that the change that they're making and the difference that they're making. So it's a pleasure. And thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thank you. So many thanks to Karen. Like I say, it's such an important thing, and you can see how the theme of these episodes are kind of sort of working together in terms of it's really about what we can do to support children, giving them kind of the momentum and the idea of agency going forward, and that kind of sort of really brought me into really the episode that I wanted to share from the archives today. So episode 288 was about the good eggs, and Sandy was talking about what she was doing there in terms of sort of supporting children through her books and that kind of thing, but also from her foundation and what she's able to give and donate to people in her community. And everybody I talk to who's involved in this area not only has a great passion about it, but there's just so much kind of warmth and growth and that idea of bringing people together to support each other and being able to sort of pay that forward. So yeah, if you want to find out more about everything that was going on in that one, episode 288, again, you can do it from the website educationonfire.com or just look for that episode in the platform that you're using. So yeah, thank you so much indeed for being here. We'll be here again next week at 7:30. Look forward to seeing you then. And in the meantime, while I've still got a voice, I will say a proper goodbye. Thanks so much. I really appreciate your time. And we'll see you again next week.